Hello everyone, welcomes to Annie's with TV. Our story starts off with a man, Itami, on the train playing a mobile game. He faces off against an army but he runs out of energy and loses. He exits the train station and heads up the escalator to an event when he suddenly hits his head. He imagines seeing an elf, a witch, and a rare goth girl. A giant shrine appears and dragons fly out with an army behind them. They begin attacking everyone in the area. Itami sees this and gets confused but rushes to help the people being slaughtered. He tells a woman to come with him if she wants to live. He then sees an enemy going to attack an officer. He stops him and puts an end to his existence, then tells the officers to open the gate and let the people inside the palace. They argue with him until they get a call that puts Itami in charge. They open the gates and the public rushes in. Itami is told the enemy force is on its way here. A helicopter sees a dragon in the sky and sends it back to GOT to end like the show. The military arrives and shows them why you don't bring knives to a force multiplier fight. Itami sees a little one and agrees to help her look for her parents, sighing that he didn't get a single manga today. Days later, Itami, dressed in his military clothes, gets awarded for the lives he protected during the invasion. Itami runs around the field while being asked how it feels to be super famous. He tells the man to leave him alone. He sits and complains that he didn't even get a single plush doll. The man says he was at the comic convention, which surprises Itami. He hugs the man and invites him to his place. He runs away telling Itami he's into girls while Itami chases him. The government arrests the creatures who came from the shrine as if they were tourists, which brings terror. They then declare that they will invade the gate to arrest the masterminds who planned this. Itami hears this and falls into bed. 3 months later, a funeral is held for all who died in the incident. The army gets ready to invade the dimension on the other side of the gate. Itami sees the little one at the funeral and then moves out to enter the gate. In the tank, his friend tells him he hears there are cat girls through the gate, cheering him up. The enemies get ready to attack the allies. They find out what tanks can do as all of the first wave is instantly wiped out. The soldiers load diffs the dragons with anti-air turrets and use tanks to wipe out the enemy army. They retreat and try attacking in the night. The soldiers use flares to see them, then use tanks to wipe them out. One of the soldiers rides into the camp but trips over wires. His soldiers come to protect him but they find out their shields can't stop lead and get sent to heaven. The soldier walks through the carnage picking up a bow and arrow and firing it. Seeing the difference in firepower, he laughs while being blown to bits. Itami walks through the battlefield. He learns that the enemy has lost 120,000 forces since the start of the battle. He wonders why they would send so many if they knew they were gonna pass. The enemy gets the report and is pleased. He says this eliminates all the other kingdoms that could fight against him. He commands his army to torch all the towns and villages, poison wells and herd all livestock towards the capital so the soldiers cannot live off their land. His advisor tells him someone is trying to oppose his rule. The king's daughter, Lada, comes into the throne room and complains about the losses they have suffered. She says their army must move now, but the king tells her that they don't have any information on the enemy. He gives her the mission to scout them and find out their weapons and she agrees. Itami gets a new mission to investigate the enemy and find out more about their world as well as begin a friendly relationship with them. The soldiers meet with the villages and talk with them. A soldier tells Itami he's disappointed because he wanted to see some cat girls. Itami says magical girls are more his thing and they talk weeb stuff along the way as they drive. They head towards a forest when a huge fire begins. They look through the binoculars and see a huge dragon breathing fire. The dragon, seeing the soldier coming, decides to fly away. They walk through the burnt forest, discovering that 27 people died, and discussed what to do if they encounter one again because their weapons can't stop it. They throw a bucket in the well and discover an elf girl floating at the bottom. Itami goes down and fishes her out. A soldier freaks out that they found an elf and asks him what to do with her. He tells them to class her as a refugee and take her with them. They return to the village they first visited and tell them what happened. They ask if they can help her but they refuse because they are leaving before the dragon comes their way. Everyone scatters to pack their things and leave. A blue-haired girl, Lele, loads books into a cart. Her master fought over her sister and she uses magic to blow him away. They use magic to make the cart float and leave with the rest. Seeing the soldiers running ahead, Lele decides to go have a look. She sees a little on the floor and goes to help. A horse threatened to crush her when a soldier pew-pewed the horse and saved her life. Itami continues their journey with the evacuating villagers. One of their carts breaks down. They refuse to leave their stuff behind, so Itami orders it to be burned. His soldier asked why he burned it. He explains it's the only way to get them to leave it behind since they can't order more vehicles. They see crows surrounding a goth Lolita girl, Rory. The villagers rush out to meet her, calling her an oracle. Rory asks to ride inside the vehicle instead of a carriage and sit on Itami's lap. They drive up the mountain when the fire dragon suddenly appears. It burns a carriage, causing the villagers to run away. It lands and roars. The soldiers pews at it but the bullets have no effect. It breathes fire at them but they dodge. The elf girl, Luna, wakes up and points at her eye. Itami then commands the soldiers to shoot at its eyes. A soldier shoots an RPG. It misses, but Rory throws her axe at the floor to move the dragon in the way of it. The fire dragon loses an arm then flies away into the sunlight. In the night they cry over all the people they have lost. Itami is told that some of the villagers will settle with relatives nearby. They say goodbye to the ones who leave and continues their journey with the remaining villagers. Luna wakes up as the soldiers arrive at their camp. The general tells Itami that he will be responsible for all the refugees he brought to their camp. The refugees introduce themselves then eat food saying it's delicious. Itami dives into a bath enjoying the water. The girls take a bath as well. Lile says she never had a warm bath because her people are nomads. Rory says as one of the apostles she has a bath in the most luxurious places. Luna asks if it was Itami who saved her and Lile confirms it was. They then wash the kids' hair. Lile tells them that she is beginning to understand their language and their culture, even the ones outside the gate. Itami celebrates as they finally got a Wi-Fi connection. The soldier reports to him that Luna is asking for 2 of everything and whenever they bring her 1 of something she doesn't touch it. Rory asks her why she has been behaving like this. She tells Rory that because she has always been taken care of she may have to sell herself in order to survive. Lile comes and shows them a battlefield of wyverns telling her she doesn't have to sell herself because they can sell them instead. They load the parts into trucks and Itami accompanies them on their delivery to see how they do trade. Luna is nervous about leaving the camp but Lile encourages her to come as the soldiers will keep them safe. They arrive at the village. They are told to identify themselves then come out of the vehicle and walk towards the door. Lada opens the door welcoming them to the village and knocking down Itami. He asks who is in charge and they announce the presence of Princess Lada. She tells them that they are at war inside and outside the city. Lada introduces them to the current ruler. Itami says he will help them fight and they let their vehicles through the wall. Rory asks Itami why he wants to protect the city. He tells her that it's the right thing to do. She smiles and put on his helmet telling him she will help him in the upcoming battle. In the night, fire arrows begin raining from the sky. A magic user begins casting a spell on the battlefield while the other enemy troops climb the ladders and begin to fight. They open the gates and taunt Lada's soldiers. They begin breaking formation and attacking the enemy. Itami watches wondering what Lada will do. They poke one of Lada's generals and begin poking all her soldiers. Mercury gets off on the floor saying she can't take it any longer. Lile explains that everyone who passes around Rory goes through her body to get to the afterworld making her feel pleasure. She then jumps off the roof and heads to the battlefield with Itami following behind her. A fleet of helicopters heads towards the city to help Itami. Rory jumps in the middle of the enemy and sends off the biggest one while laughing. The helicopters arrive and show the enemy what lead can do. The enemy tries to fight back and pass on. They try to run away and pass on. Anyone who the helicopters spare Rory and the ground soldiers unalive them. One of the enemy begs the Oracle to help them instead of Lada but she sends him to respawn. The pilot tells them it's time to end this. After a countdown he airs out the battlefield with a 6-barrel electrically operated Gatling gun. Lada wonders how can something like this exist, realizing how small they are compared to the soldiers. Itami holds Rory and purposely accidentally touches her breast and gets hit. Lada says the soldiers are too powerful and if they fight she would have to surrender. Itami is praised for helping the city. They tell him he will be able to trade without having to pay tax, have safe travel to and from the city but they want to keep the captives. Lile tells them they can keep the prisoners as long as they are kept safe and not abused. Itami takes some of the captives as refugees and puts them on the helicopter. Lile negotiates trade with a merchant. They come to an agreement about the prices for the wyvern parts. While going home they encounter an army. Itami goes out to meet them. They slap him but not wanting the army to be wiped out he tells his team to leave him and get back to the checkpoint. In the night, the soldiers watch their kingdom wondering if he's dead. Lada throws a glass at the head of the blonde one calling her an idiot. Itami sits in the corner beaten to a pulp and falls over. Lada sits in a chair wondering what she's gonna do since they broke the treaty. Itami's team decides to move in. Luna casts a spell that knocks out all the guards. Itami wakes up in a bed with maids all around him. He realizes that one of them is a cat girl and smiles. The head maid tells him these are his personal maid and to do with them as he wishes. They hear Itami's soldiers entering the building and go to meet them. The soldiers enter the building and find Itami being fed by the maids. Lada scolds the women who attacked Itami, telling her if they fight the soldiers the kingdom will fall. She tells her that to repay Itami she must offer him her body. She argues with Lada but agrees. Inside Itami's room, everyone gets along. The blonde soldier enters the room seeing everyone taking pictures together and getting along. She proves that blondes lack brain cells by getting upset and slapping Itami for existing. Lada asks what happened to Itami's face, but he says it's nothing. She finds out that he's heading home to speak to his senator. Fearing retribution for what the blonde girl did to him, she decides to accompany him back to apologize for breaking the treaty. They leave and head towards the base. Lada sees the soldiers' pewers and Lile explains how they work. She sees the other weapons and decides her empire stands no chance. Lada meets the general of the army and tells him she apologizes. They ask if she wants to reconsider the treaty, but she says it's fine as it is. Itami asks Luna to join them on the other side of the gate. She agrees when Rory and Lile's master comes in and invites themselves. In the night, Lada says that they must figure out what the soldiers want and decides to go with them. They tell Itami to treat her like an ambassador of the gate and give her a tour of Japan. They go through the gate and are amazed by the skyscrapers. The National Defense Intelligence Officer comes to meet them. He reveals that Itami is both a ranger and special forces. Itami's teammate freaks out crying on the floor, refusing to believe an idiot could do it. They sightsee while driving, then get a clothes change for Luna. They try some food, deciding that though it's weird it tastes delicious. Lada has a meeting with Foreign Affairs, while the rest are carried to the courts to be questioned. The deliberation starts with them asking about the fire dragon that killed 150 people. Itami says that he regrets that so many people died, but that day they couldn't do any better than they did. She asks if they are incapable of doing their jobs. He explains that they didn't have the firepower to finish it off. They present evidence of the dragon scale, saying that they are like flying tanks, being able to even block high-powered weapons. They call Lile to the stand. She asks if Lile is lacking anything at the camp currently. She says no, since they have good clothing, food and shelter. She asks if she thinks the SDF is responsible for the victims of the dragon attack. Lile says no. Luna takes the stand. They are curious about her ears and she tells them it's real. They ask about the dragon attack, but she was unconscious for most of that battle. Rory takes the stand. They ask her to tell them what her life is like in the camp. She says she wakes up in the morning and pray, then takes a life, then prays again. The deliberator says that 150 people died in the dragon attack, but not one soldier died. She accuses them of running away and leaving the people to die to the dragon. Rory screams in the mic, silencing her. She reveals she speaks Japanese and tells them that the soldiers didn't run away. Instead, they fought off the dragon and caused it to flee. She accuses the deliberator of manipulating numbers by not mentioning that the soldiers saved 450 people from the dragon. The deliberator argues with Rory, calling her a child. Itami interrupts and tells the deliberator that she is younger than Rory. Lile explains that Mercury is over 500 years old and Luna is over 100. Having no more questions, the deliberation is dismissed. Lada is told that they have captured 6,000 of her soldiers and they are willing to send them home, but they would owe them a favor. She tells them to give her time to see who she wishes to release. They shake hands, bringing the meeting to a close. They go on the train with everyone meeting up together. The National Defense Officer meets and tells Itami that the mole won't be able to find them at the moment. The train is then shut down because of a wiring problem. The officer tells them that next time they will be more direct. A man tries to steal Rory's axe but passes out. The officer picks up the axe, then an ambulance picks him up. Itami goes to his ex-wife's house. Inside they find creepy dolls and mangas everywhere. She says it was a bad idea to come here since she is a civilian. They spend the night. In the morning they decide to go shopping. Lada decides she wants to go to the library instead. They buy new clothes while Lada reads manga of the unstraight type. All of them then reunite and head toward a hot spring. Rory realizes she is being watched by a soldier in the forest. Many soldiers arrive on the compound saying that the targets have entered. They relax in the hot spring. Rory asks Itami's wife why they split up. She said that she found out that he volunteered for dangerous missions and she couldn't take it anymore, so they got divorced. Itami says he wants to stay at the hot spring forever, but the girls interrupt him. Itami wakes up. Everyone is asleep except for Rory. She tells him that in 30 years she will leave this body and become a god. She says she can feel many people passing around her and he will either make her go outside and destroy everyone or satisfy her himself. She falls on top of him and begins to rub his leg. He fights the horny but is slowly losing. His phone rings and interrupts them. A message tells them that enemies are on the compound and he sends out Rory to deal with the intruders. She begins by slaying the ones outside, then continues into the forest deflecting their bullets and low diffing them. She laughs while sending them to heaven and stands in relief after finishing them off. The group walks down the street complaining that their vacation is over. They knock out an enemy soldier and take his van. Lile asks why they are running. Itami tells them he has no idea. Lada asks if she is a political hostage. He says no, but she doesn't believe him and tells Itami she will not be a hostage. They stop and get something to eat. Itami asks Rory if they got him something, but she's upset because he didn't dance with her. They make a plan to get many people to surround them while they travel so the soldiers cannot attack them directly. In the morning, the party gets stuck in a traffic jam. Rory gets off the truck and clears the way for the team. They go out giving flowers and praying for the people who passed in the initial invasion. The crowd cheers and praises them for these acts of kindness. They return home through the gates. Itami feels stressed, but the girls said they enjoyed it and would like to visit again one day. Rory puts on stockings and Lotta writes a letter telling her kingdom that they can't win this war and there must be peace between them. 5 months have passed. The refugee camp has now become a town. Lotta returned home and began negotiating with the Japanese. She gets a list of 14 hostages they want to be released, then heads to the meeting. Lotta introduces the Japanese to one of the highest ranking nobles. They bring some gifts surprising him. They inform him that they will release his nephew if he supports them in bringing peace. He agrees as long as his nephew remains safe. Itami walks through the town admiring how busy it has become. He meets Rory along the way and asks them for a drink. They see Luna walking alone in the streets, and they explain that every day around this time she wanders around looking for her father that has passed. Her doctor wants to tell her to stop. Itami says it's better to let her be because one day they will leave this place. The other soldiers leave with Rory and Itami remaining. She tells Itami he is cold-hearted. He tells her his heart has had to manage too much. A dark elf, Yao, scolds Itami for making a little one drink alcohol. Rory pretends to be a little one and says that Itami was forcing her to drink. Yao draws her sword, getting ready to punish Itami. He runs away in fear, but Rory jumps through the window as well, confusing Yao. She sits at the bar and tells them she is looking for the soldiers to pay them with a big-ass diamond to kill a flame dragon. The bar closes and she has to leave. She walks through the forest and sleeps by a tree. In the morning she sees jets flying over her head and begins to cry as she found the soldiers. She runs towards the base, declaring that her people will soon be safe. She arrives at the base and asks for their help, but they don't understand her. She remembers Itami from the bar and wonders where he is. She walks through an alleyway and a man mistakes her for a night worker and loses his money. Another does the same and loses his money. She sees a furry that can understand the soldiers and goes over. She begs for her help, but she refuses since she's working. Soldiers see her acting suspiciously, then brings her in for questioning. They get Lele to translate and find out that her village is being attacked by a flame dragon and she needs help to get rid of it. The general says she can't help her because it's outside the border of the empire and it will be seen as an act of aggression if they pass. He apologizes and sends her off. They tell her Itami may be up for it if she can find him. Itami arrives near the city, delivering goods to be sold. They meet Lotta and they give her a manga of the unstraight variety. He finishes dropping off his package for Lotta and heads to the empire with the rest of the goods. Itami dresses as a citizen while being laughed at by his comrades. He shows the nobles some of his pewers, then a mortar. After seeing this, they realize that they can't win a war with Japan. They ask the negotiator what to do in order to remain peaceful with them. The soldiers see a group of men coming toward them and makes the nobles leave. The man on the horse arrives and it's revealed he is Lotta's brother, Caesar. He asks her if there are nobles there. Lotta says no and recommends him to try some food. He tastes the meat, then leaves, taking all of it in a basket. Lotta tells the negotiator that her family is beginning to move against them. He tells her that he would like to move forward with the peace talk. She agrees and decides to set up a meeting with more nobles. The soldiers are warned by the night workers that the earth is about to move. Realizing it's an earthquake, they decide to evacuate. While leaving, the earthquake hits the empire, destroying many buildings. Itami says there will be more. Lotta tells him that she needs to speak with her father and begs Itami to come along with her. He refuses, but she gives him the looks and he agrees. She goes to her father and bows. She commands the guards to protect the city and the maids to go clean up. Her father commends her for her growth, then asks who she brought with her. She introduces Itami and he welcomes them. Caesar comes in pushing away a soldier. He tells his father that he was told that another earthquake is coming. Lotta asks who told him. A Japanese hostage is brought forward bound in chains. He lifts her and asks her to talk. She begs him not to hurt her anymore. Itami rushes over and gives him an oral fisting. Caesar commands his guards to unalive them and Itami does the same to his soldiers. They start out by poking them, then show why swords are useless in a pew-pew fight. Itami asks Caesar where the rest of the Japanese hostages are. He refuses to talk and gets a new dental job with a free facelift. Itami puts a pewter to his head and asks for the Japanese. Caesar says they were sold into work without pay. The negotiator tells Lotta that she will have to answer for their captured citizens and tell the king that caring for their people is a policy. The next day, jets launch into the sky and fly over the Imperial Senate, making it go boom. A meeting is held between all the nobles. Lotta explains that they did this because they love their people. and after seeing what Caesar did to one enraged them. The soldier brings the former captive to their camp. Itami gets scolded for starting a firefight in the throne room while they're trying to pursue peace, but is also praised for saving a captive. She asks to speak with her family, but Itami tells her she can't at the moment. It's revealed that her family was a casualty in the initial invasion, and he tells the soldiers not to tell her. Itami is told that a girl was looking for him because she needs his help in slaying a fire dragon to save her people. He refuses, saying that it's terrifying. He is then told to visit Luna. He goes to her room and sees her crying. She runs to Itami, calling him her father. He asks them how this happened to her, and they tell him that Yao told her the truth, that her father passed to a fire dragon, causing her to have a mental breakdown. Itami finds Yao and asks her why she told Luna the truth. She says she came to the camp to find help for her people but was refused, so she did this to Luna in order to force Itami to take revenge on the fire dragon for her. Itami begins pretending to be Luna's father. They go sightseeing, eating and sleep together. Itami gets a mission to go to the imperial capital in order to translate. He tells Luna that he has to leave soon, and she begins to get a headache. While walking away, he sees Yao. She tells him the headache happens because she is close to going completely insane. Itami and Luna go to the bar. Rory asks him how it feels to have a daughter that is older than him, and he says it's weird. Itami gets ready to leave on his mission. He tells Luna that he will be back soon. Seeing her looking sad, he jumps off the helicopter and decides to go slay the dragon. He tells his friend that he and Luna alone will go hunt the Charizard. Rory trips him, then scolds him for being stupid. She makes a contract with him that will make his soul becomes hers if he dies. Lilei and Yao then come in and reveals they are going with them as well. They get in a van and drive towards the dragon. A furry attempts to unalive the Japanese captive. She tells the furry that she wants to pass since her family is gone. She puts a sword to her talk box, but a soldier sees them. The furry rushes towards the soldier, dodging his pews. They begin to fight. She pokes him in the back and he blows her back out. Both of them pass out on the floor. The soldiers carry both of them to the hospital and begin to investigate. They found out that the assassin was tricked into attempting to unalive the former captive, in order to frame Lada and start a war between the nations. Itami's party arrives at Yao's village. The raid boss suddenly appears, landing on the floor and roaring. Itami tells Luna to run and Rory jumps up and smacks it. Lilei tries to hit it with a spell, but it dodges. It uses fire spin and throws Rory into the wall. Itami tells Luna that the dragon smoked her father. She calls Itami father, but he shouts at her that he is not her father. He points an RPG at the dragon and forces Luna to pull the trigger. It fires, but Drago dodges and escapes again. They sit at a campfire, saying none of their attacks had any effect. The dark elves come and greet them. Itami asks why the dragon is staying here. They say that it woke up from hibernation and began feasting. They agree to take them to its home, but before they do, Itami shows them how to use RPGs. They arrive at the dragon's cave and go inside. They find swords everywhere on the ground and begin setting up C4 in the cave. Rory sees the dragon approaching. It circles around in the sky, then flies above them. They shoot RPGs at it. The dragon starts using people to hit people. Luna wakes up seeing the dragon, realizing that her father is gone, and blames herself for it. Lilei tells her the flame dragon smoked him, so they should focus on defeating it. The dragon starts breathing fire. Itami rushes towards the C4 to fix the wire. Lilei uses the force to pick up all the weapons and Gilgamesh the dragon, turning it into a pin cushion. An elf stabs the dragon's feet and gets toasted. Luna uses a spell that causes lightning to come from the sky and strike the dragon. The lightning activates the C4 and blows the dragon to pieces. Itami's party escapes the cave, successfully defeating the dragon. They see Rory defeated, lying on the side of a rock. Rory's sister says, if it wasn't for her contract with Itami, she couldn't have beaten Rory, but because Rory has been taking his injuries for herself, she was weakened. She calls down 2 more flame dragons and Itami takes Rory and runs away. 2 jets fly over and see the 2 dragons chasing them. It begins firing missiles, then fly over again to drop bombs, before the tanks get their turn, and to make sure the dragons have passed, an attack helicopter comes and fires at it also. Itami is relieved that the fight is over. Rory chases her sister to get revenge for what she has done. Itami gets scolded for going on a mission on his own and is suspended for 2 weeks. They then award him for all he has accomplished on the mission. The general gives him a new mission, to explore the region and look for valuable materials after his suspension has ended. Lilei drives the jeep with Itami, giving her instructions. They arrive at the City of Magic and go to a hotel. The desk manager introduces them to the workers. They show Lilei to her room. Itami asks about his room and the manager calls him a manservant and shows him to a tool shed. He goes to the girls and sees Lilei in her new clothes. She explains that anyone that wishes to become a master mage has to wear it. She's nervous about the test, but Itami encourages her and cheers her up. They go to a house and an old lady bursts through the door hugging Lilei. She congratulates her on all that she has accomplished, then tripped over books while walking. A woman rushes to the old lady scolding her. She sees Lilei and begins complaining that she has a little sister that is testing for a master mage while she is still doing her doctorate, and hangs around with important people while she struggles to get by. Itami is confused and Lilei says that the woman is her sister. Lada and the negotiator are happy that the peace talks are going well. Lada tells him that it seems that someone has a crush on him. He looks over and sees a prison sentence. She follows the negotiator around asking him to do many activities. She tells him in 4 years they can get married and he starts to walk away. She says the nobles are scared of the Japanese and she can improve relations. He introduces her to one of his colleagues and they start talking about rare jewelry. Seeing this, the other women begin talking as well. He thanks her for her help and she says she'll do anything for her husband. A ceremony is held for the prisoners who were returned. The Japanese representatives arrive and are greeted by the king. Caesar watches the ceremony, being angry that his kingdom is seeking peace instead of fighting. Lada sits happily saying they will soon have peace in this kingdom. The head of the flame dragon is brought in. The king asks who defeated it. Lada tells him that Itami's party was the one that smoked the dragon. He asks Lada to bring back Lilei to the kingdom in order to reward her. The king stands and proposes a toast. Everyone drinks, then the king falls over unmoving. Caesar smiles at this while Lada runs to her father crying. Caesar takes control of the kingdom. He tells his people that he will not surrender to enemies and they will fight. The sheep cheers his name and he announces it's time to begin the war. Lada and Caesar have a meeting. He tells her that the peace representatives are under house arrest because they were taking gifts from their enemies. Lada asks for proof but he has none. The captives that were released comes in and tells Caesar that they plan to attack villages while wearing the soldiers' clothes, to turn the public against the soldiers. Lada scolds them for being cowards. Caesar tells them to go ahead with the plan. Lada tells them that she regrets releasing them. Lada meets with her other brother. He tells her he is leaving to gather forces from other nations in order to stop Caesar. Lada tells him if he does that everything they have will be taken away. He says if Caesar rules the empire will fall anyway and rides off. Lilei introduces the team to the old lady. She calls Rory and she says she has gotten old. She tells Rory she finally has an answer to why there are so many species in this world. She explains that all the species come from the gate, because every time it opens new people emerge from it, but after a while the gate closes and goes dormant. Rory tells her she is correct. She says that demigods like her guide those from the gate or put them down. The old lady asks Lilei what she's gonna show at the test. She pulls out a laptop, surprising everyone. Lilei's sister admits that Lilei is better than her and declares she will surpass her by being the first to get married. She asks if Itami is single, but Lilei reveals that they have done the 3-night sleep ceremony. Luna stands up and says she has slept with Itami much more than 3 times. Realizing that she is lost in this aspect of life as well, Lilei's sister pours food on her head and challenges her to a magic duel. Rory judges the fight and tells them no killing is allowed. They start out with Lilei's sister's rapid firing magic at her. Lilei casts back and knocks her to the floor. Spells begin raining from the sky and Lilei begins to fly. Her sister prepares her ultimate attack and she flies away but is caught in the explosion. She dodges a coin, then hits her sister at close range with a spell, causing the battle to end in a draw. A man walks towards Lilei with a crossbow but he's poked by Lada's guard. They tell them that because Lilei is a human who slew a flame dragon, she is now very famous in the empire, and because someone is jealous of her, they sent assassins to unalive her. They ask for Itami's help and he agrees to run away. In the morning, they randomly pick a direction to travel and go there to confuse the stalkers. The negotiator is told that there are nobles who are seeking his protection. He refuses to, saying the general has ordered him not to take in anyone. He hears the little one crying and goes to the window. He stares at her but walks away because the national interest is greater than his personal feelings. She stands outside while the men who made her an orphan try to reunite her with her parents. She cries and fights him. He starts to drag her away. The negotiator comes outside and orders him to release her because he is her husband. They walk towards each other and embrace in a hug. He tells her it's okay. She smiles and thanks him. A battle breaks out on the compound. One of the men runs toward the negotiator. He tries to cover his lolly's eyes but she says she must look because the soldiers are dying for her freedom. Her guard comes and tells her that from this day on he will be her guardian. The enemy soldier runs away and leaves the area. Itami's team returns to the City of Magic so Lilei can go for her degree. In the night, 3 workers walk into the room and stabs the bed. A flash grenade comes out, stunning them. Rory knocks them out, then they are tied up. They say they have been tricked into doing this by someone who told them that Itami's party was criminals. The manager begs for the lives of his workers and Rory forgives them. Lilei says it's best to keep an eye on them, to see if the assassin tries to make contact. Lada is told that Caesar wishes to meet with her. He tells her to order her army to stop protecting the Japanese. She refuses and tries to leave, but he stops her. Lile meets her sister at the ceremony. Itami is nervous that an assassin will manipulate someone into attacking Lile. Her sister tells him it is impossible since all magicians are valued and respected. Itami sees a man pulls out a slasher and pulls his pure on him. He accuses her of stealing his research and Itami orders him to be taken away. A boy stands on the podium explaining his research. The judges begin throwing stuff at him and he runs away screaming. Lile goes up a stage. A furry jumps up and tries to poke her. Everyone casts a spell at the furry and knocks her out. Lile is then poked by her friend standing beside her. Lada is told to put on chains, then is dragged to the dungeons. She fights to open the door when her brother's bedmaid comes in and tells her. Her brother says she loses. Lile was wearing armor, so she was alright. They ask their friend why she would do this and realize that she was manipulated by the assassin. Itami is told what has happened to Lada and they rush toward the capital. The soldiers blast a hole in the wall, then introduces dragon riders to missiles. They enter the gate and show the enemy led. More soldiers fall into the city from planes. Caesar sees this and freaks out. He says that they aren't ready for an attack. His bedmaid comes and tells him not to run but stay and protect his crown. The soldiers continue invading the empire while some soldiers evacuate the civilians from the city. Itami speeds towards the city. They tell him to slow down. He says no one's dying on his watch. The soldiers empty the clip into the enemy. They fire back arrows and actually hit someone. They begin charging at them, but mortars put an end to that. The soldiers go inside the building and evacuate their people. Caesar is told that every single one of his soldiers has been slaughtered. He decides to send in his personal soldiers to go and fight the Japanese. Lada's guards attempt to free her but retreat because there are too many enemy guards. They run towards the soldiers, and they light them up before escaping into the helicopter. She cries as she failed to rescue the princess. Itami arrives in the city. He meets with his team and they decide to rescue Lada together. Itami pulls the jeep disguised as a cart. Lile shows the guards the invitation and they are let inside. Lada is dragged to Caesar. She is accused of treason and begins to laugh. Caesar says that he doesn't fear the Japanese and they can attack at any time. A hole is blown through the door and Itami walks in. Caesar calls for an ogre and it appears. It swings at Lile but she flies away. She empties the magical clip into the ogre until it falls. Itami takes Lada and Caesar walks toward him, challenging him to a 1v1. Itami tells him that the next time he steps out of line he will meet Jesus and leave. They drive away and are attacked by soldiers. They find the emperor alive and rescue him. Itami drives out of the city and turns their pursuers into dust. The emperor wakes up and tells them he wants peace. Lada tells him to stop Caesar, but he refuses and names Lada the crown princess, telling her she can either divide the country into two or make peace with her brother. Caesar runs away to the east, saying one day he will have his revenge. A ceremony is held or Lada becomes the crown princess. Lada bows and accepts. The crowd cheers and celebrates. All the ships show themselves. All are fine except for this one. They begin to wonder where Itami is. Itami runs through the streets going towards Anime Con. He is tripped by Rory, then surrounded by his party. He tells them to go home, but they're surrounded by everyone at the convention. A police officer comes and helps them, putting them in the back of his car, driving them away to a safer place, all prison. That will be all for today. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.